So once again, welcome to day 3 of the Huawei and Communications Authority Cybersecurity Bootcamp. Today, we're going to be looking at a number of things. We're also going to have a different strategy with regards to looking through the slides to ensure that we complete them in time. So I believe you already have the content. And also, please don't think that you can do this for attendance. Like, don't just wait for you to get maybe the attendance link and maybe get out of the call. You'll be sure that your chances of also passing that certification exam reduces the more the sessions you miss. And also, so you're not becoming so cheeky, or you're becoming so wise when you're missing sessions. You're actually doing yourself an injustice, because you're actually supposed to be there, ask questions, interact with with your instructor, so that you have that. So, but if you are the one who wants a link right now, you can tell me, I'll DM you the link so that you can get out of the call. I don't want people who are waiting for the link. I just want people who actually want to learn. So I'll not be taking questions right now up until the first break. So you'll bear with me on that. So let's go on. I want to share something about the softwares. Looking for it. So can you confirm that you can see this? Somebody has already started annotating. Don't know why. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you. Okay, so let's get on to this. So I wanted to say something. For example, you can see this. I don't know whether there's some of you who actually looked at what was inside this folder. I didn't mention about it yesterday, but they are very important. I don't know whether I actually covered everything. I don't know whether it finished uploading. There are a number of lessons. So for example, you can see the common server types and threats, as well as up to lesson 8 on host firewalls and antivirus software. So what I'll do is you can check them. This was actually done by for a different group by another person. So you can check them out so that it can give you a guidance on what I'll not be actually going through in quite a bit of detail. So let me just open the slides. Remember, we stuck on one module yesterday, and I don't want that to happen today. So I'll be just taking you through what is in a slide, just an overview. Then you can have some bit of questions from the chat. Then you go to another one, and you go to another one up until you are done with them. So let me share my screen, my presentation. So you can confirm that you can see the presentation. Thank you, Joe, Frank, Major, Manuel, John, Hilda, Brian, Charity, Alex, Shem, York, Mushiri, Charles, George, Maina, Pinjoki, Victor, Kalut, Gabriel, Mwangi, Willie, Jerry, Effie, Gift, Kefa, Nicholas. Yes, thank you. So when you talk about the threats, the reason why you're having cybersecurity is because we are actually wanting to protect against the threats. So, so it's very important. The reason why you actually lock your room is because there's a threat around you leaving it open. So same case with regards to information security, there's usually some threats that abound when you're dealing with an information system. So when you're looking at the objectives of this module, you're going to realize that you should be able to know how to categorize the threats and also describe what a common information security threat means. So what are the contents? You're going to be looking at the current situation of the information security threats, of information security threats. Kalut, don't think I'm allowed to do that. So, so maybe you can use another software if you want to record. Then threats to network security. We're also going to look at threats to application security and some of the threats to data transmission, as well as device security. So I'll talk about some security incidences. There are a number of them that took place, that they actually took place. Some of the most famous, we've covered them earlier, maybe you've already mentioned it over the last 2 days, was the WannaCry, which happened on May 12, 2017. Let me just use my pointer so that you know where I am. So this was what happened in 2017. It was a ransomware. It really spread globally and actually costed billions and billions of dollars and loss of data. Then there was actually what we call a software hijacking or a communication process hijacking that happened in China in 2017. There's also a personal PI, I usually call them personally identifying information, that happened through a telecommunications fraud. And actually what happens is that more than 90% of what telecommunications fraud happen is usually targeted using precise information. So anytime you're able to get maybe the date of birth of someone, their family members, their favorite restaurant, and so on and so forth, you're able to easily more target them to social engineering once you have that. Then we also have what we call there's a popular online game. I don't know whether someone was saying yesterday, the other day, they are playing Call of Duty. So there's another one called Final Fantasy, and it was actually suffering a 3-hour DDOS attack. Yesterday in the WhatsApp group, I shared a vulnerability that is affecting PS5, PlayStation 5. So there's also some attacks that target also gaming servers. And all those, there are actually endless. The number of security incidents that have occurred are endless. When you're looking at what happened is, there's what we call Stocksnet. I don't know whether you have an idea of what happened here. So what happened is Iran in 2011, February of 2011, they actually announced that they're going to unload fuel from its fast power nuclear power station. So what happened is the industry had said that Iran needed only 1 year to be able to be capable of actually creating nuclear weapons. And nuclear weapons actually have a role to play in making you a superpower. So the Stuxnet attack actually ruined one of the 1/5. That is like around 1/5. That is 20% of the centrifuge of Iran, and actually it had to postpone the research for almost around 2 years. And after that, the global landscape really changed. You remember what happened with regards to it, and also it affected a number of networks. You can see here 45,000 networks. And also it became one of the most, and it is usually talked about in all cybersecurity kind of incidences. It is one of the most sophisticated cyber weapons. And usually you have state-sponsored attacks where one government sponsors the cybersecurity attack of another state. So it's quite tricky, especially when you're a superpower. You have to ensure that you have the best of the best with regards to cybersecurity attack and defense. It's becoming even as more potent than sending out military on a full-blown war. So that is also something you need to note. So that is an energy-related attack. So what happened? How has information security attacks evolved over time? So the forms have not really changed. For example, viruses, phishing, targeting, vulnerabilities, they are still the same. But what has happened? There became more sophisticated kind of attacks. So what happened here? So what happened here is that with regards to when you're trying to attack, for example, you're attacking a nuclear industry like the one for Iran by Stocksnet, it takes a bit of time. It takes a lot of dedication by those cybersecurity attackers. I mean, those cybersecurity teams, as well as also the attackers, because they have to take more time to ensure that they have actually ensured that there's no loophole that is affecting the information system. So then what happened is they became a lot of diverse attack purposes. That is also another thing that happened. And also the purposes change. For example, like you even heard about attacks that are there for what? They usually call it hacktivism. You are hacking because of you are actually trying to send out a message. So they also came up things, for example, such as politics, change of guard, people saying that Russia had a hand in the American voting system and all those. There's a lot of accusations that usually move around, especially within that space. So in looking at the categories, there are usually three of them. There are usually threats to cybersecurity, threats to application security, and also some threats to data transmission and device security. So the general threats that are not really within one domain is, for example, like DDoS, distributed denial of service attacks. There's also network intrusion. We're talking about applications vulnerabilities that are occurring in operating systems, which are system applications. I mean, system softwares. There's also viruses. There's also phishing websites. I think I mentioned about the Facebook data breaches. There's also communication traffic hijacking, man-in-the-middle attacks. Those are the ones that are under data transmission and device security. Then there's also unauthorized login to the system. These happen most of the time. During the after session yesterday, we tried to understand the cybersecurity posture of one of our participants who is working for an organization who they're having Microsoft 365. So we were able to check and try to understand what is going on in the organization. And we realized that they have a very strict policy with regards to devices. And what are they doing with devices? What they're doing is this. They're actually ensuring that there's a software that is there, a Microsoft software, such that if you leave the company in not so good circumstances, all the company data can be remotely wiped off your device. So how many have been able to do that? That's a question that you can do. How, if you work for an organization, can you suggest such measures? So I already mentioned it. I'll not talk too much. So the one example is those some DDoS attacks against the DNS service in the US in 2016. It targeted some of the things such as IoT device. IoT is also another emerging disruptive technology. which is very important. And IoT security is now becoming very, very important. Then there was also the Mirai attack. And with regards to the means that were used, for example, like there was the use of DDoS attacks. And what happened is it actually created what we call a botnet. A botnet is, think of it like some zombie computers that are doing the work. They have like replicated. Have you ever seen in a movie, you're trying to fight someone, then as you're fighting them, they duplicate each other and they overpower you. So that is what happens in a botnet. So don't worry if I'm moving these. I've already mentioned that these are content that you already have. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of what is there so that we move a bit faster. So then there's also there's someone in the group today was saying that how can they report if there are vulnerabilities on the Huawei website? So what I can tell you is that first of all, you need to know that scanning a network without authorization or scanning resources or trying to enumerate some of the technologies and the devices in a network without prior authorization by any company can make you be liable to some legal action. So it's very important to ensure that before you do something, before you do any kind of scanning, be it address scanning, be it port scanning, you do it in a safe environment. If it's a lab, if it's a cybersecurity lab within your computer, but don't try it out on computers that you have not been given authorization for, especially if you obviously because you ensure that we're all trying to become and working towards becoming white hats, and also cybersecurity defense, blue teamers, red teamers, and all that. So you'll be able to look at some of the difference between address scanning and port scanning there. Then we're looking about spoofing. Spoofing is where you're actually acting as if you are the one who is sending some packets. For example, you can see here this IP spoofing, and the attacker may send packets with forged source IP address to target hosts and to obtain superior access and control permissions. So it's like somebody here comes in and says, no, the one who is teaching you is not Kevin Tui. I'm the one who is Kevin Tui. So I've already removed him from the conference, and I'm the one teaching you because I'm the one. And you maybe believe the person because they might be having also the host rights. So that can be a case of spoofing in a real life scenario, for example. So let's look at this example. So you can see these are hosts with 192.168.0.1. They are sending a request to host B, which is having .0.6. And the sniffer, what has the sniffer done? They're also acting as if they are also having the same IP as host A. And you can see, so they'll actually ensure what? They paralyze host A so that host A cannot act as if you're having 292.168.0.1. Then the sniffer will now act as if they're host A and continue interacting with host B once they're there. So that is quite tricky, and it is also something that happens. When you look at the training material, you'll be able to see the whole process of how an IP spoofing attack occurs, which is quite important to know. So when you look at the DDoS, distributed denial of service, let's look at this diagram. So we're having an attacker. An attacker will have a jump server. So you can see that. So they'll actually try to ensure that they try to control the largest number of online hosts. So how will they do that? They'll try to do that by gaining what we call zombies, computers that don't have a mind of their own. They're actually getting their commands from the jump server. So you can see the jump server is here, and then it is actually directing the zombies, and the zombies are actually sending all those requests to to a router over the internet, and then they're actually overpowering the target of the attack. So you can see the green shows this control traffic, and then the red is showing the attack traffic. And all this is what we call the combination of the jump server and the zombies is what we call the botnet. So the DDoS attacks are usually having a dual purpose. They can be used to exhaust network bandwidth so that you cannot use any more of it, and also to exhaust some of the server resources so that there's nothing you can do with your own servers. So DDoS attacks are usually divided into SYN flood, the SYN flood, SYN flood, there's a UDP flood, there's an ICMP flood, HTTP or HTTPS flood, and as well as a DNS flood. So those are some of the flooding that can happen in a DDoS. So this is quite important to note, and that is how distributed denial of service attack works. So Mishiri is saying, is IP spoofing effective in the LAN, considering packets are sent using MAC address? So you can have, for example, like even if the packets are being sent through a MAC address, you always note that every computer in the network has been assigned an IP, right? So that is where now what we have MAC address spoofing. So even if you are in the LAN, there's also not only just IP spoofing, you also have MAC address spoofing. So IP spoofing can be possible because when you're looking at routers, routers will only understand the IP. They'll not really follow it up and check whether the MAC address is exactly the one that is sending. So we go on. So what are some of the defense measures for cyber attacks? These are very important because as a cybersecurity expert, as a cybersecurity specialist, as a network security engineer, you'll be required to know how to configure firewalls, deploy and configure them, because in deployment, you're actually configuring them. You'll also be able to know how to set up what we call anti-DDoS devices. Yesterday, I showed you a campus network, and there was a place where there was having a anti-DDoS devices. So Rogers is saying it's impossible if you use port security. A different interface cannot connect to the network, but this is just effective for physical connection. Yeah, so if you have some implemented port security, you'll be able to know that another device cannot be plugged in onto the network through one of the interfaces, right? And now do the spoofing. So that is also another very important defense measure. So somebody is asking, where does IPS and IDS come in? So IPS and IDS are also usually are defense measures that are coming in with regards to, I think it's application security, right? Because they usually operate most of the time with regards to the application, with regards to the layer, the application layer. So you'll be able to see it, I think, in the future slides. So let's see. So there's a worm attack against Weibo. Where see now Weibo is a replica of Chinese Twitter. It is a Twitter. It is like a Twitter for Chinese, and it was actually once hit by a worm that affected over 30,000 users in less than an hour. You can imagine that. So it was a worm. So what happened? So the attacker actually created an account and infected it with the worm and sent the malicious link to a public section. So people started, it was actually exploiting what we call a web page vulnerability. So what happened is when people click the link with enticing titles, they got the account also infected. I think you've ever seen this in Facebook a number of times. Then the worm started spreading because the infected user accounts automatically posted that. You've also seen that in WhatsApp a number of times. Then the infected messages increased exponentially, in which infected a large number of user accounts. So that is how a worm really would actually operate and look like. So so that is one incidence of application security incident. So some of the threats brought about by vulnerabilities, because that was a web page vulnerabilities, is they come, for example, in the implementation of the hardware, the software, the protocols, the system security policies. That is why I told you it's very important to be part and parcel of such organizations such as ITU, International Telecommunications Union, and also IETF, just to get an understanding of how these protocols are being developed, and also you can be able to work with them and fix some vulnerabilities at that level of how the protocols work. So system vulnerabilities are not fixed in time. The following attacks may occur. So when they're not fixed in time, for example, one of the things that come into play is what we call 0-day attacks. They are 0-day attacks. Then they also have what we call cross-site scripting. We have SQL injection attacks. We also have malicious code propagation. You can see them, they are here, as well as what we call a data breach. So if you actually want to know more about SQL injection and XSS, cross-site scripting, you can be able to see them more in what we called the HCNP security. So you can understand more about it there. So then we also have phishing. I think I mentioned this, so I'll not spend so much time there. So people acting as if they are a certain website. For example, Amazon, instead of using O, you are using 0. So somebody may not really see it on face value that it is a fake Amazon website. And they actually provide the information as they are trying to buy something, and then they are attacked even more. Yeah, so usually have fake websites masquerading as online. It's very important to look at, surely, what are some of the features. For example, you can tell me, maybe you can put it in the chat. What are the strategies do you put into place so that you know that you are not being phished or you're not accessing a fake website? You can tell us, maybe put it in the chat, tell me, so that we learn from each other. Maybe there's something that I might also not even be knowing. So I can see Brian saying scan the URL. How do we do that? Brian, you can tell us. They can see URL scan. Also Mushiri is saying, how do we do that? Then Brian, you say you only visit websites that you're familiar with. See, you are also limiting yourself. So how do you know that you're familiar with? Eddie, how do you counter check your URL? What do you look for in the URL that you ensure? Use an internet security antivirus. That's a very good thing, Major. They're usually very good internet security antiviruses. Yes, Geoffrey, you can start by looking at the green padlock, which is for security, for HTTPS. You can see Phyllis is saying you check fish. Then also you can see Nicholas is saying no updated dates or old. Yes, you can be able to see. And also sometimes the content is not well arranged. There's usually some issues with that site. Check if the website is secured. I don't know. Do you know the different levels of the green padlock? Who knows them? You can raise your hand. I give you an opportunity to describe them, so that you know it's not just about the green padlock. There's more to it. Always exit any website that requires me to give any details before I can access the content. Okay. That's also a good strategy. But then again, sometimes you might be required to register for you to access a course. How will you know that a certain course. For example, you could not access the HCIA security course without registering on the Huawei Talent platform. But if you counter check links, you can scan the website using scan.io or Aristotle. Really, that's good. Avoid clicking unknown links. What is unknown links? DKIP. DKIP. The problem with checking HTTPS is that a serious hacker can purchase encryption, SSL, TLS certificates too. Yes, that can happen. There's also, I'm not seeing the participants. Let me just see. Maybe there's somebody who raised their hand and I don't know. Okay, aha. So I can see, yes, that is true, Dennis. Encryption format is involved, so you can also check. There's a way you check. This remind me to settle you during the break how you check also the different check spellings in links. Yes, that is very basic but very important. Always check the spellings. And also, if something has gone through a URL shortened like bit.ly, try to see whether you can use, what are the tools can you use so that you can check a URL that has been hidden in a URL shortener. What can you do? Maybe somebody can post it there and we see. It's very important to know that. But don't click on links, confirm. You can use scan.io, your Aristotle, you've been told. Check the domain name. Yes, again, very important. Don't assume .com, .org, .co.ke, .ac.ke. Dorcas, open using incognito. It's not really too safe. Willie, what are those steganography tools? Maybe you can tell us. Stag hide, that is one good one. Samuel, thank you. That's a very good one. Nice, nice, nice. So as you move on, stag solve, I can see stag solve and stag guide. Maybe you can share the links to them. So as long as they're not phishing links, that they're legitimate links so that you can be able to see them. Then we also have malicious code. And this happens a lot, especially for those who are actually using WordPress and other CMSs that require you to buy some certain plugins or themes. So you get a plugin that looks free, has been cracked, in quotes, cracked. Thanks, Charles. You can, members, you can also check on that. You can save it somewhere. So what happens is when you get that cracked software, in quotes, you're actually also introducing malicious code into your computer, which can cause what? It can actually result in actually having what? A Trojan horse, a worm, a virus, as well as a backdoor. You can see that, which becomes very tricky when you look at it. Yes, ransomware is also a malicious software, because at the end of it all, malware is short for malicious software. So ransomware has no good intentions. There's no way a ransomware can be having good intentions. So yeah. Yes, Mukiribosi, it happens to you with WordPress and the content was changed. It's very bad. You can imagine if that website is of a big organization. You've seen it a number of times. Remember when the government websites were also hacked? It was actually very bad. So let's go on. We're almost done with this. So usually have some defense measures for application attacks. So some of the defense measures here is vulnerability fixing. How do you fix? As a developer, you actually ensure that you register what you call a CVE, you don't know what CVE stands for, please look at it. It's full for common vulnerabilities and exposures identifier. So sometimes whatever you as a vulnerability has already been registered as a CVE, but you can also check whatever. For example, there's some CVEs affecting PDF files, even PDF softwares. There's some CVEs that come about. For example, like I think yesterday when we were having the after session, we saw the vulnerability that was there. I think it is Microsoft Exchange that was affected, and they have actually registered. They were actually tweeting about it and saying even multi-factor authentication is not a defense measure. You can check it out. It's called Microsoft Security Intelligence on Twitter. Then we also have protection through professional equipment. Here we're talking about, okay, I want to finish with awareness. That is why I've skipped it. So here you actually use firewalls, which you need to know how to configure. You also have WAFs. WAF stands for Web Application Firewalls. Almost all cloud providers, be it AWS, Huawei Cloud, GCP, Azure, Alibaba Cloud, all of them must be having the resource or the feature for Web Application Firewall because it's very important. Then you also have antivirus. Yes, do not log in to sites without SSL certificates, very important. So when looking about antivirus is quite key. It's so basic. Sometimes, most of the time, people think that with an antivirus, they have everything sorted, but sometimes that's not the case. Usually not the case because you need to have other equipment, other measures in place. Then awareness, we already said, and we'll still repeat it again and again and again. The human is the weakest link. The human is the weakest link. And when you say that, the only antidote for human being the weakest link to becoming the strongest link in cybersecurity is by actually creating awareness. I don't know how many times in your organization or in your campuses, you've been taken through some cybersecurity awareness, maybe by the ICT department or the computer science department, or maybe any other directorate in your university. They actually organized a cybersecurity awareness. I don't know how many have, how many, maybe you can post on the chat and tell us, for example, if you've been trained on cybersecurity awareness in your campus or in your organization, you can say yes. If you are no, you can say, even saying even it's never, it's that serious. Never seen. Actually, even not even talked about, never seen. It's like a taboo, which is crazy. Others never happened in my school, really. Yeah, don't have to mention the school, just say yes or no. Some are saying yes, Maureen, yes. Charlotte, you're saying yes. Peter, you're saying never. Dominic, you're saying severally. Yes, maybe for those who are saying yes, maybe you can tell us what were you taught or what did you learn about in the cybersecurity awareness? What did you go out with? Planning. Some are saying no. Kefa, no. Gitonga, no. Geoffrey, you didn't even hear about it. Sometimes you can even finish campus if you haven't heard about it. Personally, I didn't hear about it in my campus. I think I only found it in a unit. Just a poster in the lab. What was the poster saying, Dennis? Somebody was saying you're only given the Wi-Fi password for the campus, and sometimes even those passwords are very, very very, very shallow. Maybe you're given XXX University 123, XXX campus 321. So Charles is saying they talked about the various fields, penetration testing. So that looked like a career talk. I'm talking about cybersecurity awareness. That's a different thing. Charles, I'm talking about cybersecurity awareness, that it should be done to everyone, not just IT guys. Avoiding phishing attacks because of mails, their disease. That's a good thing that you got out of Charlotte. Anything about the NSP we covered, it's also in the recording. I'm not going to go back to that, please. So if you're having issues with that, check the recording and see what happens. You learned about privacy. What did you learn, Mukiribosi? Privacy. What about privacy? Then I'm seeing Sharon say they send regular emails to the students on cybersecurity and the kind of attacks you might go through. Then what do they tell you to do? So develop policies on safe password generation, bug hunting, the school system, bug hunting the school system, and forensics. So you're allowed to do bug hunting for the school resources. Wow, that is quite something. Different types of attacks and how to prevent ourselves from them. Okay, so I would like you to be helpful to us, Maureen. Give us one attack that you learned and what exact way of preventing ourselves from that attack were you told. That would be very good. So for the recording, you'll always access it on the WhatsApp group, also on the YouTube. On YouTube, I put it as an unlisted video. The reason for that is that these are cybersecurity bootcamp is for a specific group of people. So I'm not allowed to make it too public. So I'll leave it at that until when you're done with the bootcamp. So Maureen, you can tell us social engineering attack. What were you told to do so that you can prevent a social engineering attack? What were you told to do, Maureen? Can tell us? As you go to threats to data transmission and the device security. Spamming, Moses, you're saying spamming. Don't share personal information with strangers online, and also don't open unknown links. That is very true, especially these links that tell you there's a scholarship or there's 8 GB bundles, there's a job opening somewhere. All that they can actually mess you up. Don't trust even your brother when it comes to online. That is true. We've seen people have their weird, even obscene videos and pictures posted online. So yeah, exactly. Not being told, are you lonely? You can find us here. You can click on these and find the love of your life. How can you find the love of your life? Through an email. It's quite unimaginable. So when you look at this in terms of device security, what happened with NSA, the National Security Agency. They actually listened to all the encrypted communication between Google and Yahoo. So there was actually how to have the Google Cloud. So when people are in the public internet, Google's front-end encryption or decryption device had some issues. The front-end server had some. So they're able to go behind this and now listen to the backend plain text data from here. They're able to get a lot. So let me check the chat. I'm seeing someone says, don't be online when not using the network. Yes. With the digital world, there's not total privacy. You can try only to maintain it by ensuring whatever you share you are very careful of what you share on social media and also reject some of the cookies. Very true. So privacy is quite of an illusion, but people try their best. There are people who install, even they don't use Google, they use DuckDuckGo. You use Tor browser. You use what? You're using only the dark web. What else do people do? They use Telegram, or what? There was another new chat messaging service that came into play when WhatsApp was saying they are going to do something. It was called what? Signal. Yes, exactly. So Signal got a lot of users. I don't know how many of you still use it. If you are a user of Signal, maybe you can say yes, or you can. I really wonder whether in US, brand thing in US, a lot of people were getting their Facebook hacked because there was a questionnaire being shared to ask for personal questions such as mothers, maiden, what. Those are other questions used to recover passwords, and then they were when lost. Yes, exactly. You know those security questions that you put in your KRA, those security questions that you've answered in another device. Oh, it becomes very tricky when you put the same answer and you go to somewhere else. For example, right now, I think there's the green card lottery going on, if I'm not wrong. I don't know that it was closed. And there's a lot of people posting some fake websites saying they're actually running the DV lottery. So it becomes very tricky if you are not that cautious. And many people are desperate to get out of the country and maybe pursue the American dream. So it can be very tricky. Problems with other search engines are not as competitive. You can find yourself, yes. Moses, you're saying what is 9 days remaining to closure? What is ending? I think at the end we also discuss how many of you were locked out of making calls by Safaricom. I think, was it yesterday or the other day? Because they have not registered their SIM card. If you're one of them, tell us on the chat. Are you locked out? Oh yeah, it is. Oh, the green card is 9 days remaining. And I know a lot of people have been scammed as they're trying to pursue that green card. Thomas, you're saying until now. What is going on until now? Maybe is it the Safaricom? Yeah, so you can see Tumblr. Tumblr is also another, I don't know whether it says okay, me, I usually say Tumblr, but I know it's something else. It must, how do we pronounce this? Is it TUMBLR or Tum? I just usually say it's this Tumblr or something. Anyway, whatever it is, don't catch me saying, don't say that you caught one instructor saying this is Tumblr. If you know how it is pronounced. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Maybe it must be Tumblr. Okay. Then I was locked out by staff, but they got me back in. Maybe they discovered they don't care. Yes, you are actually ignoring their messages. They're telling you, do you know your SIM card is going to be closed? Tumblr. Okay, good. Maybe. I don't know if it is the Tumblr we know as Kenyans, but that's a story for another day. I wish I could look for something that can make me a signature personality, like a Tumblr. Anyway, let's go on. Dominic, that's so bad. That's so cruel of you. Maybe there's a way they'll find you to pay, but maybe, I don't know. So what happened to Tumblr? So there's some user information breaches. You need to know that. Also, Facebook has ever happened that, and you know that and maybe we can ask each other this question. It's a discussion. It's a live session. You have the materials. So I'm sure you're going to go back to the materials. The essence of these live sessions is for us to interact and engage, right? So So let me ask you, why are information breaches so frequent? Why are they happening each and every time? I hope you've seen the video where Mark Zuckerberg was at was it the Congress or was it the Senate for the US Senate or the US Congress? And he was being asked about the Facebook privacy issues. And he was being asked, I think I remember he was being asked what? He was being asked whether it'd be comfortable if Facebook knew the hotel he slept yesterday. And he's actually saying, no, I wouldn't be comfortable. Then why is maybe Facebook trying to ensure that they know where other users are and what they're doing and everything? So it was quite of a tricky question. But I remember he actually tried to evade it. But anyway, money talks. So any idea why do they happen a lot of time? Why do information breaches happen a lot of time? Yes, yes, that is true, Mushiri. The information, for example, if I can get maybe let's say the what, all your details, your name, your ID number, your phone number, your legitimate email address, your father's name, your mother's name, your siblings' names. What else do they need? Your favorite hobbies, all that for let's say all the students who are doing the Huawei Cybersecurity Bootcamp. If I could get that, I'd actually be able to sell it in the dark web and maybe sell it for a good amount of money because that will make the social engineering process of some of the hackers much easier. So this the data sale in the black market, which is very big business. It's a $1 billion industry. Your health data, yes, exactly. For example, if you already know, for example, I just told you I'm not feeling well, but I ensure that I can't tell you where exactly am I not feeling well. What have I done not to ensure that I feel better for the class? I've ensured at least I make sure I tell you that. So, and not to expose too much information. So there's also credit card information. How many of you have M-Pesa launched something? M-Pesa launched something called what? The I see they have a fever, Evans. I don't have a flu. It started out with some, anyway, let me not say much, but I'm having a bit of a fever. That is why I think I'm about to give you some 10-minute break at 4:15 so that I can go get something some water to drink and something. So information is power. Yes. Virtual. I do think that in a rush to release or keep up with technology advancement, tech companies leave vulnerabilities in their systems. Yes. What happened to Huduma number? How many of you registered for Huduma number? And the other day I registered, sadly or goodly. I don't know whether I can say it's a sad or a good thing. And then when I went to Huduma Center, I think some 1 or 2 months after I got the SMS, they told me they can't give me that card. There's a case in court. So I was wondering, what happened? What happened? Was it a bad thing? How many information? I can imagine my biometric details are being held by someone somewhere. I don't know whether they already sold it to someone. It's crazy, right? When you think about it deeply. Exactly, Rose. You don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know whether Kenya sold it for some debt to borrow some money. Still wondering what is the purpose of it. You've even changed it from Huduma to Huruma. Huruma number. Anyway, actually the argument of the court was valid. It's an infringement. But what happened? We registered. Yes, you are saying it's a right to privacy and everything, but now in Kiswahili they usually say maji yakimwagika hayazoleki. So yeah, Nicholas, don't worry. Even if you try to pick yours, Nicholas, you're not going to get it. Let me take this call. Then as you go on. Sorry about that. It's sometimes some calls are unavoidable. Yeah, Hayazoleki. It was just to manipulate. Mukiribosi, how? Tell us. How was it? Betting sites or other promotional messages will appear. By the way, that is true. Sometimes get certain messages and I wonder, when did I subscribe to these services? Somebody telling me I need a partner. I don't know who told them I don't have a partner. Somebody else telling me I can pick a box. The right box will give me 1,000,000 shillings. It's crazy. Oh yeah, you're asking what M-Pesa started. M-Pesa started what we call Global Pay. It was launched in a big way the other day, where you are having a virtual credit card that is being managed. So you don't have to open a bank account to get a credit card, which you can transact online. I started out being so cautious about it because when I read the terms and conditions, but I had to register anyway so that I can test the service and see whether it works. But anyway, this life, I think the only secret you have is anything that you don't put on your devices. That is the only thing that is in your mind. And sometimes I think with the technology are moving with disruptive technologies. We are now moving from actually what we can hold. For example, like phones. For example, like we can now just right now we are talking about phones, right? And when I talk about phones, very soon phones will no longer be something that you see outside. It will be something that is part of you. For example, like a wearable. You can get a message, reply it in your mind or something. I can imagine where we will be there when we get to that point. I think we can go crazy. Nicholas, I'll not mention your comment because this is going on record. So so I'll not mention that. How about the details you write at? Maybe that is true. Dorcas, you're saying the truth. The details you write at entrances, and you write them so well. Always ask them, why do they need my ID number? As well as my phone number. Can't they just give me a visitor pass and register that visitor pass number and know that this person with visitor pass number 3 is so and so, and if you try to leave, you have to do that. There's a lot of issue, and that is why I don't know what are your thoughts. I don't know whether you've looked at the Data Protection Act and the requirement of registration of data protection officers. There's even some vacancies that have come up in the office of the Data Protection Commissioner. it's a crazy thing, and it's difficult to legislate and implement that. How can you tell me, for example, like currently, I told you when you're registering your attendance, you put your name and your email address. You've done that for day 1. You've done that for day 2. You'll do it for the next 3 days. After this bootcamp is over, I will remain with your details, right? How sure are you that I'm not going to use your details for other things, right? Or I might be sold to someone and they can actually send you some promotional emails. It's a crazy, it's a typical, obviously I'll not do that. I actually handle a lot of data. And I ensure that my integrity comes first. So Dennis, I'm not going to do anything. Be sure of that. You can be sure of that. Yes, yeah, this is the Cambridge Analytica scandal. It is there in Netflix. I don't know if it's Netflix. They explained how people are being profiled, and you can be able to know how many people will vote for which side. And Twitter has become quite something on it. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time here. It's very important still. Then there's threats in the communication process. One of the one that we even had in the latest Supreme Court is man in the middle attacks, MITM. They are here. Data transmission not encrypted or inadequately encrypted. Transmission security risks. For example, when you register to become a student in a campus, you fill a personal details form. You also put your passport there, right? These days, even some schools, some campuses, they have actually ensured that they take your biometric. They tell you that you're going to be using your biometric to enter the campus. I don't know how secure you think your details are in the campus that you are in, and the way we are saying Huduma number is not good for us, but we are still registering more students. How many students joined the campus this past September? How are their data being handled? Is there a standard data protection that is happening? So, okay, that's a good thing. Kenya, I think that is something you can, I'll not endorse it because it might cause some issues. But sometimes, yes, it's some certain books just need to fake those details. Anyway, then we have servers with vulnerabilities, users using weak passwords. You can see all these, they're all, it regards to, these are transmission, these are device security risks, using weak passwords, and also the identity not authenticated. So man in the middle, these are very good example. You have a user talking to another user, but somebody comes into play as user A is communicating user B, they are doing it through the man in the middle. And then the consequences are usually information tampering and also information theft. Sharon, I have a question for you. What about those places where you have to leave your ID at the gate for you to enter, then you'll come pick it as you leave? Will it matter whether you've written the wrong one? Think about it and tell me. Then we have information not encrypted or inadequately encrypted. So think of it like how is your data being stored in those ERP systems for your campuses? How does it really work? How do you know that your data is safe wherever it is? It's quite tricky. So how do you do what are the suggestions? Encrypt information before you store it. encrypt information before you transmit it, and also make sure you use strong encryption algorithms. You can tell us what are those strong encryption algorithms? Can give you one. I think one is what? RSA. Is it RSA? You also have does hashing do encryption? I thought hashing is used for integrity purposes. Yes, the advanced encryption standard 256, DES, SHA. Yeah, some of you are doing your triple DES. Yes, very true. Some of you are doing your projects. I usually check some projects for students doing their IT projects. And when you start on the matter of security, they start sweating, because I just tell them, first of all, can you go to your PHP my admin if they are creating a crude application? Then I ask them, can you go to the user table? We go there, very well. Can we check the password column? And you look at the password column. Sometimes it's quite shameful to see what is there. Somebody is storing passwords in plain text. Someone is storing usernames in plain text. Do you know that even usernames are not supposed to even be stored in plain text these days? Somebody is also putting other personal identifying information just the way it is. So they're not encrypting information before they store it in the database. So there's a very big divide between what you're supposed to do and what you actually do. So think about it, especially when you're looking at encryption of information. So the other thing is encryption authentication attack. And sometimes an attacker can obtain the identity authentication information. For example, they know your username and your password. Yes, Evans, they should be. They should be. When they're being about to be stored in a database, even the username should be encrypted. Because the moment I know the username, I can create a word list and try to now focus on the password part and try to obtain. I don't know how many of you have been able to use Johnny. There's a software called Johnny for it's a password. It's used for password cracking. It's called Johnny the Ripper. Is it JTR? If you know it, be able to know. There's also yes, Rose. There's also Hashcat. So it's how will you be recognized? It's a system. It's a system. So the system will be able to decrypt that username and get it back to the original format before it goes back to be checked. Yes, Johnny the Ripper. I don't know how many of you have been able to use it in a CTF challenge and make sure you've been able to get a password and log into a box. Should try those things like try hack me, hack the box. Maybe somebody has that. You can, yes, Mr. Robot. Those are your, yes, Mr. Robot that's the favorite tools for Mr. Robot and you. So Sharon is answering me. If the gateman is paying attention, like counter checking, I'll write the correct ID and fake my phone number, but most of them don't check. If by chance I'm caught lying on the ID number, I will just give them an innocent look and say I must have confused one number. That's a good strategy. But you know, for us men, we don't confuse things. How will you act like that? For ladies, you might get away with it, but for men, I don't know how you can say you've missed that. By the time you say that, you might have received a very good slap. Yes, Rose. Can get a good slap about it. Then as the above mentioned softwares, one can deploy on our machine for encryption. So what we just mentioned were not softwares, they are encryption algorithms, DDoS, those are not softwares. AES, SHA-256, those. Brian, but you know, when a lady is assaulted, it's a very big issue. So mwanaume itabidi you do what? What will you do as a man? You will have to ensure that you don't look like you're crying. That is the first thing. The second thing, you should make sure you look as if it hasn't gone anywhere in direct translation, or it has not entered anywhere. You persevere, yes, Samuel. It's crazy. So let's move on to this because we need to move a bit faster. But I'm loving the interaction on the chat. You guys are good. So you're even making me feel better. I'm forgetting that I was supposed to even do a break at 4 so that I can get something, but I'm already still here up until now. So so let me do some 2 minutes, then I give you a break of 5 minutes. I'll break down the 15-minute break into 5 so that we are good to go. So an attacker obtains, okay, I don't want to read slides, I usually don't have reading them. So what happens in an authentication, they actually identify, then some of the common form of attacks usually is this one. So what do? I can give you an advice to deal with authentication attacks. Apart from just doing whatever is there, installing genuine antivirus, using strong passwords, and reduce the relevance between different passwords. For example, like don't use, for example, if you are on Facebook, you're saying Kenya Sharon at Facebook 123, then you are going to Google, you're saying Kenya Sharon at Gmail 123. Then you're going to Huawei, you're saying Kenya Sharon at Huawei 123. Although the moment I find one, I've already found all your passwords. I don't even have to wait. I don't even have to create a word list or something. I just I'm home and dry, which is crazy. Which is crazy when you come to think about it. So, the advice I was supposed to give you: use authentication devices or authentication software. Some of the best authentication software that are there is like Duo Mobile. Which are the other ones? Authenticators. You know them. I usually use Duo Mobile. Duo Mobile looks like this. I usually use it as a way for giving me the codes that change. Which are the others that authenticators do use? Google Auth, the authenticator is a very good one also. Which other authenticators do you use? Always make sure Authy. Okay. So what they do, for those who are not understanding, is you include it in your account so that anytime after somebody puts the right username and the password, you have to go back to the authenticator, get a code that expires every 30 seconds and paste it where you are just being able to log in. So they're usually called authentication devices or software. So it's very important. Instead of just having multi-factor authentication as an SMS, because somebody can get your SIM card and ensure they have it, it's good to just have an authenticator. It really helps. So let's finish on this, then we do the break. Let's do the quiz. So what some of the application threats to application security? You can tell me. Application security, the keyword here is application. So we're having A, injection attack, B, XSS, IP spoofing. And don't look at the training material and post, please. Not wanaingia tu kwa training material, they're getting the answers, then they post it. So you can see there are some of you just said XSS. When you do that in an exam, you have not gotten the answer. Because of what? This is an MCMA, multiple choice, multiple answer. So it means that you have to look at all the options that you have and tick. Sometimes in an exam, they'll tell you select 2, select 3, so that you are very sure about how many selections you need to make. So So yes, IP spoofing is a network security threat. Port scanning is also a network security threat. XSS happens in applications, cross-site scripting. Injection can also happen in databases, which is also within the application layer. So let's go to the second question. Which of the following device security risks? Servers with vulnerability, users with weak passwords, data transmission inadequately encrypted, and user identity not authenticated. Device security. Servers with the vulnerability is correct because server is a device. Users with weak passwords. Can we say it's also a device security? Yes. Because the moment you're having a weak password, it actually affects. That is also another one. So you're having A and B there. Then when you look at data transmission, that is a data transmission. You said you have device and data transmission security risk. So those are, C is a data transmission related risk. It is not a device security risk. Then user identity not authenticated. So those are the three device security risks. If you miss that, you can check on the slides and you'll be able to do that. So in summary, we've looked at the current situation where we are, some of the threats that are there in network security, application security, and also data transmission and device security. So with that, I think we'll have a 5-minute break. So this is the Huawei ICT competition 2022-2023 Sub-Saharan Africa. Kindly make sure you take your time and register and also take part in it. Don't just register for the sake. Register for something that you can complete and you can be proud of. Wow, yeah, Dominic, it's if it's late, you tell us your experience at the end of the class, how the first one that you did was. I don't know which screen you're seeing. Are you seeing this screen on the link on your end? That is the one you tell me so that I can also move now to the next thing. Which screen are you seeing? Okay, nice. Are you now seeing operating system overview? Good. So I'll move very fast here, and please don't cry foul, because most of you are into. I've seen from the chats you're quite knowledgeable, so I'll be boring most of you if I take too long here. But if you have an issue with it, don't worry, there are recordings and you can also send chat. So what about OS? Think of it about, it's part of system software, and some of the most common OS is Windows, Linux, and also Mac. And also there's the disk operating system. There's also OS too. So here you're going to be learning about Windows and Linux, get to know some of the functions, as well as the features of the Windows operating system, which is very important. This is also very important. Then also the development history of the Linux, which is also a good, Linux is the one that is used most. You have Kali Linux which has a good number of tools. So an OS, you already know this, provides an interface between the user and the computers. It helps you manage the hardware resources, and also it helps to improve the human-machine interaction interface. Remember, it is also a system software or a system software program. So when talking about processor management, it includes this number of things. There are the main functions. One of them is the processor itself, the CPU. So control, synchronization, communication, as well as scheduling. That is what it does. When talking about memory, you already know the architecture of a computer. It is made up of processor. It is also made up of memory. So in terms of memory management for the operating system, it does allocation, protection, as well as expansion, right? So it is the work of the, for example, if you upgrade, I believe I told you yesterday, those with 4 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM cannot work with NSP well. So when you add that memory module to your computer, it is the work of the operating system to ensure that they have expanded memory to be in line with the ones that the upgrade that you've done. Then again, there's device management, which is very important because it has to register all the devices connected to it. So in here, it's about buffer management, and buffer, there's usually in cybersecurity, there's something like buffer overflow attacks. So it's a ripe area to look at things such as buffers. And also it's not about just Windows. There's a lot even about buffers in terms of Android, because when a smartphone device, it's okay, John, a smartphone device has lesser capacity than a desktop or a laptop. So this comes into play. There's also allocation and also virtualization of devices. For example, when you actually virtualize a CD, have you ever seen I used to do this? We were so fascinated when you can have a virtual DVD or a CD-ROM in a computer. That is the work of the operating system. Helps Power ISO. I think we used to use Power ISO. These days, it's a native feature in Windows. You can get a virtual drive the moment you just double click an ISO file. That is also part of that. Then you also have file management, which is very important. It is the most prominent look of an operating system. What happens here? What happens is that you're having a directory structure, and it becomes very important when you go to Linux. You get to know the root, when you get to the home, the user, the opt, the bin, the folders as they are arranged. You need to know which applications where are applications sorted, what is the work of the bin, of the USR, of the opt, different, what is stored where, especially in Linux. For Windows, you also get to know, you have to set up a structure, organize your work. Those with dirty desktops, organize your work. Don't just put everything on the desktop. It's also a cybersecurity issue, because I don't have to look so far to know where your personal details are. Then there's the job management. Here you're talking about task and interface management. For example, like when talking about job management, it's all about for example, you are told the computer to burn 5 CDs, right? And maybe the computer is connected to a DVD or a CD burner or a duplicator or something of that sort. That is a job. So it has to manage the task itself, the same way it has to create an illusion of doing multiple things at the same time. Also, human-machine interaction, has to check that. Graphical user interfaces, like the ones that are there, and also control of language, all that is under job management. So operating system can be categorized in terms of the application domain, the number of supported users, as well as the openness of the source code. So these are different categorization types. So some of theirs, for example, you have the desktop operating, the server, and also the embedded operating systems, depending on where it is, the environment in which that operating system has been installed. For example, when you install Android in a Raspberry Pi or an Android, Arduino Uno, something of that sort, it is not the same as the operating system that we've installed in a laptop. The domain is different, and it may be working for a different purpose. Then you're having supported the number of users it supports. For example, there's single user and also multi-user. Single user are the ones that were earlier, like the MS-DOS and the OS2. These days, most operating systems are multi-user. Then in terms of openness of the source code, you know that Windows doesn't have the code publicly available, so it's closed source. But most of the Linux systems and also FreeBSD are usually open source. And again, also macOS is also a closed source operating system. So let's look at a bit of a deep dive. The history, you know it, I'll not focus so much on that. Always remember it as it is a dominant, it has become dominant in the industry. When you're looking at the system architecture, which is very important, because cybersecurity, you need to know the basics. You need to know the basics. You need to know what is happening where. You cannot say you are a doctor and you don't know even where eyes are. You're looking for eyes. Somebody is saying their eyes are hurting and they are looking at their legs. Doesn't make sense. So here it's about system. There's the user mode, which is at top level. Then there's also the kernel mode. So what about the kernel? We usually have the device drivers in this place. There's a hardware abstraction layer, the Windows kernel itself. Then there's the executive entities. You think about now the DLLs appear here. They're the ones that connect with the kernel. Then we have the Windows and graphic systems. They're also there within the kernel. Within the user mode, whatever you usually see the DLLs. You see the process of the system, as well as the service processes, the applications, as well as the environment subsystems. So if you want to know more details of this, you can find it in your PDF. So that is the architecture of the Windows. So the Windows family has really moved. Right now, we are even no longer in Windows 10, we are in Windows 11. Take a sip of water. Sorry. So in 1986, it started at Windows 1.0. Right now, in 2016, they have now Windows 10. And it's been all these iterations as because of user feedback. I usually say the worst, I don't know how old you are, maybe it might expose me. The worst Windows operating system I ever found was this one. I don't know whether it even lasted. It was called Windows Vista. I don't even, some of you even know it. Then they sorted it out a bit and then came up with Windows 7. Daniel already shared it, but maybe somebody can share it again. So what are the features? Very important, as I said. Remember that it has intuitive and efficient object-oriented GUIs that are easy to learn. That is what makes Windows very easy more than Linux. Because of the GUIs, the GUIs are, they've done a lot of work on the graphical user interfaces. Then also it is the most widely used and most compatible, because if you want to play a game, you can find it there. If you want to install a certain printer, most probably it's there. For Linux, you'll have to struggle a bit with the drivers, something of that sort. Then you have the unified, friendly, and neat UIs, you can see still being emphasized. Then various device-dependent graphical operations. So you can see, so when you're looking at device-dependent, think of it like even ENSP, some graphical operations that maybe work well in Windows. That is why they're able to work with that. So then multi-user and multitasking is also a good feature of Windows. So Windows can be applied in the personal office. It can also be applied in servers. We usually have a Windows Server. I think the current is Windows Server 2022, if I'm not wrong. It is also used in ATMs. Do you know ATMs used? I don't know. There's one time I ever saw an ATM with Windows XP. Have you ever seen the Windows? I don't know whether they updated it, but most ATMs usually use XP. I don't know why. Maybe it's the latest. Maybe Nicholas, you can tell me. I ever saw that icon, customer. Wow, if that is where money is stored, imagine all the money. They are trusting XP with it. Evans, yes, if it works, leave it. Don't touch it. Even these servers. If there's something working here, please, 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 don't touch. Don't touch. We need that holiday. Oh, Windows 10 was launched in Nanyuki. I didn't know that. Can see, you have a video or something of it. I didn't know that. I don't know why I just follow. I usually follow the the releases of Apple, not because I can buy anything. Okay, I know I have an Apple device, but just to hear about how they try to connect whatever their features are with the user problems. For example, like I saw that there's another feature they were releasing. They were saying that their iPhones, they'll be able to get some metadata from you, how long you walk, even your walking style, whether you limp a lot, and even recommend that you go to the doctor to be checked on something. Then I said, okay, I really wish I could easily make that. You can imagine even somebody knowing whether you are walking differently from the way you walk normally. Not someone, your phone. It's crazy. Apple just changes color and size. The rest have been invented in other texts. Anyway, that's a debate we can have for another day, Evans. So which other texts are inventing these things? Maybe we can talk about that. Anyway, let's go to Linux. I want to move a bit faster. My time is really flying. I think I have only less than 30 minutes and I haven't covered much. But please make sure you read the PDF that you got, the training material PDF, way in advance. Don't think that I have to go. Then don't wait for the 3 p.m. class alone. After the class, you can look through the materials, go through the platform on the Huawei Talent platform, check on that Chinese guy who is speaking about this content. Yeah, because I cannot assure you that I'll cover everything, but I'll make sure I give you the exam success tips. I passed the exam, so I'll give you some tips on it, but I'll obviously not give you what the content, because I don't have it. I don't even know what is there currently. So yeah, that is what I do. So it in an ATM hacking and fraud documentary. Okay. It's okay, Samuel. It's okay. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow, don't forget, please, for those who will be dropping out a bit, remember that you're having Dr. Joseph J. Bartmiller. I'll show you his LinkedIn profile at the end of the class. He's a very busy person. He actually did it because he has ever done it before for me. So and we met in Isaka. We met in the Isaka Engage platform. So that is how it's not about these connections. You don't get them because of special things. Join the associations. So Linux doesn't have a lot of things. Unix, I love Linux. I don't know whether it's a sin to be in information security and hate Linux. It doesn't work. It's like being an athlete and then you hate sweating. It doesn't work. Or being an athlete and you hate pain. You really need to know Linux from its basics. Start with a good introductory course on Linux. Learn how to navigate, install applications, know how to navigate. Yes, even Windows uses Linux. And the other day they registered what? There's what called Windows subsystem for Linux. There's something like that. There's a time I was doing a project in Udacity, and I was supposed to use Docker and also the Kubernetes. And then there's that issue about you have to install VirtualBox or maybe either use the WSL. That is a story for another day. Let me not start on it. It was crazy, but I survived. I finished that and tried to ensure that I delete those images. But be sure that Linux is key. You cannot survive without it. Yes, it's very addictive. The only thing is, I don't know, maybe somebody can help me. I've been unable to, after I did a dual boot for Kali Linux and Windows when it was Windows, I think 7 or 8, I don't know. Then my hard disk crashed twice. I bought 2 hard disks. I decided me and dual boot to Mbele. Only deal with it as a what? As part of VMware or VirtualBox. And it's very difficult to have the Linux as the hosts, as the one is bare metal, and then you're having the Windows within a virtual machine. If you are part of those people who are up there, Linux is your main operating system and you don't care about Windows, kindly help me get out of this what? These handcuffs. Yeah, so yeah, it might work perfect. I don't know, maybe it was an issue with that Windows version, Windows build. I don't know. But after I did that, niliona mambo ya dual boot. And then the bad thing about dual boot, I have to shut down the computer, then come back again. But I know it has benefits because the Linux now has direct access to the what? To the hardware, which makes it more efficient, especially when you're building something. So yeah, Adobe, yes. Microsoft. Imagine I even had to buy a Microsoft license to ensure that I don't get viruses. But people maybe you don't want to make love tonight. Thank you. So okay, maybe you want. Let me not judge. So there's this guy called Andrew S. Tannenbaum. He has written a number of books, like Torvalds. You already know that's the history. How is the system architecture? It's a bit different. It's a bit more. There's the hardware. We have the file systems. We have after the hardware, you have the kernel. And then after the kernel, you get the system calls and the shells. And then you have the applications. And the file system have an almost direct access to the hardware. Yes, Samuel, it has, hey, that crash. I can't forget how much data I lost, especially pictures from my younger days. Install Windows first, do the what? PRTSNS, what is that? Then install Linux, and then later. I did that, the Windows was there. Then I did Linux. First of all, I was doing weird things as a student. They usually say the Linux ate the Windows. Mushiri, Linux has a better work. You can work at, it has a direct access to the hardware, and also it is less resource heavy and more can help you do more with regards to if you check on it. Although different what the GNOMEs and the KDEs, the desktops variations can be different. Some are more heavy than others, so you need to choose the right one. Linux, you can see they're there. You have the Ubuntu, the Debian. This is a typo. It's Debian. Red Hat, I think is more commercial also. It's a commercialized Fedora, SUSE, CentOS. I'm getting paranoid. Gentoo. There's so many other variations that are there. Yes. It has Maureen, yes, it is a bit secure because most viruses target Windows systems. So you can even, yes, you can run Linux using NetHunter. A good thing Samuel would say there. If you have an issue with NetHunter, maybe you can reach out to Samuel. I think he has experience on that. My web system work faster hosted on Linux than in Windows. Very true, Evans. Yes, you can install a Linux on an external hard disk and connect it. I think that is possible. Very true. But you'll not get the benefits, that full benefits. Sometimes also it's going to be having some issues. Even an external USB drive, you can do that. But you cannot do that, Nicholas. I thought you can do the same way you can do it on an external USB and create a bootable USB. Yes, I think you can, Samad, yes. So remember the main features of Linux. Remember it is free of charge, very good multi-user multitasking like Windows, user-friendly interfaces, although they are not that good with interfaces. Then it also supports multiple platforms. It is used in military equipment, gaming consoles. Although I think this picture needs to be updated by Huawei. We are at PS5 armor. Then network devices and also enterprise servers. So when you compare, you realize that open source, quite difficult to customize, free, charged, has more software and games can run there. Although lower number, for example, you can see ENSP is not having a native Linux version. Low risk of virus, as you have told, in terms of security, frequent system patching, and very high risk. And then it is difficult for beginners to use sometimes, but sometimes this difficult. It is not difficult, because what makes it difficult? Why do we really say it is difficult? Yes, Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. That is, I think you're talking about Ubuntu Evans. That's a very good UI. Yeah, I can say it's okay. The terminal, but terminal is not the only thing in a Linux operating system. You don't open a Linux operating system and boom, you get the terminal on your face. I don't think it happens like that. Learning the commands, but I think you just need very few commands for you to start. Then the rest of the commands, you just get them online. You copy, you paste, you run. Yeah, it's not that you need to cram all of them. You just need to know what that command really does. Let's get to the quiz. Which of the following is not a feature of the Windows operating system? You can tell me which is not the feature of an Windows operating system. Aki, these are so easy. And somebody is saying, hey, Rose na tumekuwa pamoja. Endo baya kutosoma all the options. That is an exam tip, I can tell you. Let me tell you one thing I do when I do my certification exams. Before I look at the options, when I read the question, I even try my best not to look at the options. Then I know there's an answer that has come to my mind. Then as I read the options, I look at whether the answer that was in my mind is in the list. If it is there, the next thing I do is I check, am I required to give one answer or give two answers or three answers? Then if I'm not sure, if I've eliminated and I'm left, okay, if I'm not sure about it, I do elimination method. I eliminate, I say, pana, this one cannot even be the answer. I eliminate until I get two. And when I get two, I see which one is the most viable, which one is the most correct, which one is the most natural answer to give between the two. Then I give it. If there are two that were required and I'm remaining with two, I give all of them. And life goes on. And you don't spend a lot of time banging your head on the desk over one question. If you don't know it, I think you have the ability to go back to the question that you have skipped. So you go back and review it. Yes. So here you only need one answer. It is D. So those are some of the tips I can give you on with regards to the menu. But make sure you don't think that you can read the dumps, cram the dumps, exam dumps, and go to the exam and you'll pass. It never works. It never ever works. And if you do, itakuwa kuponyoka ile tu kidogo tu, you are at the margin. Because the moment you see a question and you didn't have any understanding, you didn't go through the live sessions, you didn't go through the content in the platform, and then you see it and you don't have any content in your mind, and you don't remember seeing it in the exam dump, you are done. You can see it. So that is what I can tell you on that. So that is that. Let's move faster. Let me do one more slide before I leave it at that. Let me see if I can do one more. I'm on module 2. If I can do 2 more, I'll be happy, because I'll have finished module 1 and module 2, and we still have 2. But I'll move faster. We still have 3 more modules, and we are in day 3. But I hope it's been worth it, right? I hope the live sessions should thank you, Huawei, for the live sessions. I hope they've been good. Personally, I think I've enjoyed teaching it. I've also been learning as I teach. Yeah, and today is Teachers Day, and you haven't even wished me happy Teachers Day. Yes, Rabah. Yes, Aminu Rabah. You wanted to say something? Okay, let's go on. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Phyllis. Aki, sijaitisha, but thank you. I was just joking about it. Thank you. Evans, it's not about the TSC number. Teachers are teachers, and even in the other world, we call ourselves educators, because it's not about just teaching. You educate. Educator looks nice. Eh? Even in my LinkedIn, you see. In my LinkedIn, I say I'm an educator. I don't say a teacher. Teacher looks too dictatorial and something, but we are still teachers. Ukiniita mwalimu na kubalingi tu. So yeah, let's go on. So we need to go faster. So here we're going to look at common server types and threats. So in terms of the objectives, you're going to be able to describe the categories of servers, some of the functions, of common servers, the security threats of common servers, and also we're going to look at some of the vulnerabilities and patches. Yeah, mkuje Stronghold Tennis. Karibu, you are welcome. I think we can do even a hackathon there. You come and enjoy it there, whatever is there, and we have some very good goat meat in Taraka. So let's go on. So a server is just a more powerful computer than others, and its work can provide services such as query, storage, and computing. And also most of the services are providing like web servers, FTP servers, database servers, and print servers, even had email servers. So they are just some computers that have a more powerful capability so that they can serve others. Think of it like if in real life, think of it like a waiter, right? So a waiter has the ability to hold that tray and go and serve different people in the restaurant. But if you're given that opportunity to do that, you might not serve enough customers to make the company make a profit. So they have more ability than you, but maybe if they come to another field, they find you better. So some of the features are availability, usability, scalability, as well as manageability, right? So those are some of the features that are there. So when you're looking at these features, think about availability. Is a server is not anything if it is not there. If you see 404, is it 404 not found? That server is not really helping you. Then the other thing about usability is the server must be able to give you the ability to utilize it to achieve a certain function. For example, if it's an FTP server, you should be able to use it to get files or to store files for people to get it. So the other one is scalability. This one is not a very well, I can say its scalability is not infinite, but that is why now came cloud computing. Right now you can have a server of almost unlimited power. There's a time I had a breach on my AWS account, and somebody had created a server with 32 times virtual CPUs, and I think some 16 GB, I think it was 32 GB of RAM, and AWS was approving it. And it was a very big issue because in 1 hour, I think it had costed me almost 20,000 shillings. That is around $200 to $300. And we spent almost over 3-4 months talking about it and trying to solve it so that I get back. But finally, they solved it out. And I did a lot of things so that I can show them that me being the human, I should have been much better with what? With securing my account. Yeah. So manageability, should be able to also manage your server. So looking at that in terms of what availability, usability, scalability, and manageability should be very high. Doesn't have to be very high for PCs. Then multiprocessor supported, but usually multiprocessor usually not supported, but these days we still have. For example, when you look at these CPU, do you see there how many fans? I can see a fan here, a fan here, a fan here, and a fan here. So it means that all those, there must be some CPUs. I can even see 2 fans for the power supply. If I'm not wrong, this is the power supply. You can see it also has two power units, 2 power ports for putting the cable. So it means that it requires some power. So you can classify servers in terms of application, the level, the architecture, its appearance, as well as the usage. In terms of application level, there's the entry level, the work group, the department, and the enterprise. This depends on where does it really work, even within the network. And also in terms of the power, it also increases. Then we have, in terms of system architecture, we have x86, I think it's like 32-bit, and the one that is not 32. So then we have the ones that there's a rack server, there's a blade, there's a tower, then there's a cabinet. I think you're going to see on the next slide. Then we have general purpose servers and also specific function or a function server. So if you want more details about them, they're also in your PDF. So rack servers are really the best selling because of the chassis. They also have a small chassis, and also multiple servers can be installed in one. They almost look like switches and routers. So that is why they are the most common ones that are used, rack servers, so that you don't have to deal with a lot. Tower servers are not that much. There's usually the traditional one. They have large chassis dimensions, take a lot of space. They are also strong internal capability, scalability. They occupy a larger area, so they're not that. Then you have blade servers, high density, energy efficient, also centralized, and also quick deployment of that. That is how it looks. And be something like the way it is like a blade, it can cut you. Then you have a cabinet. Or internal scalability. It means that, okay, where was it? So you're talking about strong internal scalability. It means that within it, you can upgrade the RAM. For example, if the RAM could be upgraded from 4 GB to 8 GB in a rack, or maybe 8 GB to 16 GB. In a tower server, you can maybe go from 16 even to 32 or 64. So the scalability is stronger because of the space. You can add more devices. That is what it really means in terms of internal scalability, Moshiri. Cabinet, these are the ones that are usually used in data centers. They're usually high end. Even the AWSs, the Huawei cloud and everything, they usually use these kind of servers. Several servers placed in one cabinet. And sometimes certain organizations and even government entities, they would want that they don't share any cabinet server with anyone. So when they buy the cloud services, they are given they are supposed to be given they've even shown where their own server is and where it is located in the whole world. So because of certain compliance and regulatory issues. So server overview, I've already mentioned it. You have a file, we have a database, a mail server, web server, FTP server, DNS server, even NTP. Anytime you say connect to the internet to get the network, the time, usually provided by an NTP. Then a proxy server is usually used for ensuring that all traffic go through it first as a proxy. It can be used maybe for example, for those of you have eduroam in your campuses and you have to enter your username and your password to access the Wi-Fi. Usually that is going through something like a radius server, which is usually a proxy server. I don't have to go through each and every one of them. Allow me not to do that. Let's go to the security threats. So when talking about security threats, we're having some of the things that, like, for example, malicious programs. We already talked about this, so don't worry if it looks repetitive. We are in a cybersecurity class, a boot camp. So don't worry if they look repeated. So we have malicious programs. We have system vulnerabilities. We also have DDoS attacks. We also have SQL injection attacks. We already mentioned, and I think we said some are application threats. For example, like SQL. Yes, it also used for network address. Network address translation, I think, could that be a DNS? I think it can also be also in a proxy. Can also be used somehow. But sometimes proxy servers create a bottleneck. So it's very important before you think about them. You see what it comes out. So already these are the threats, we talked about it. I don't have to go through each and every one of them in once. So brute force, sometimes these days you can use, I've already mentioned about Johnny the Ripper. You can use that for brute force attacks. So you try out different combinations, and you don't have to do it manually by typing. You can use automated means until you get the right password. So you have also SQL injection attacks, where you are typing something on a browser, you put / then you add a command, an SQL command, then it is executed when you click submit. It is also executed together in the database. So that is why you usually have, for example, for those who develop with PHP, usually what we call the strip slashes function, and many other development programming languages for development have ways of trying to mitigate the risks that come with SQL injection attacks. So you at your own time, you look at the process of an SQL injection attack goes on through this. So DDoS attacks, I think I mentioned these in the earlier in the first part of the class. So a hacker has a jump server. A jump server helps in creating some zombie hosts. Then they flood network traffic just to ensure maybe they exhaust the bandwidth or ensure that services are not provided by those servers. I think that even never happened. It has ever happened a number of times. So sometimes what we usually, the virus that is usually used here is usually Trojan. Trojans are usually used in this case. So what are the defense methods? We've been mentioning these in our charts. So see which ones can work for you. For example, you should not install suspicious software. For example, some of you have been asking themselves, why is this video conferencing platform that you're using not on Google Play Store or on what? So those are some of the things. If you're not very sure, you should actually check on it. Do not open a link from an unknown sender. That is also another thing. I usually see them in groups a lot of time and people just click them. Install antivirus software, very important. And don't say you have Windows Defender. Please install a proper antivirus software. I know you say it is good, but you cannot compare a watchman to a military person. That's the best way I can explain to you. So do not access suspicious websites. Remember that. Set complex passwords. We already said use an authenticator like Duo Mobile, Google Authenticator, and a number of those. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you really secure your devices. Free antiviruses software that are good. It depends on a number of factors. The reason why personally I use Kaspersky is because I follow it up on how they work with their systems and how they're very, very aggressive on research. And you have the KSN, the Kaspersky Security Network. That is why I just chose that, but everyone has their own choices. Always make sure. Another good one is usually Avast, I think. Is it Avast or AVG? I think it's AVG. You can try to check on those ones. There's also Asset. Asset, even so Asset have Kenyan offices. They have a Kenya office and everything. So it's a good one. Lobit Malware Fighter. IOBIT. IOBIT. I know IOBIT. IOBIT is a very good software. They have a family of software which are very good. That's also SQL injection. Use regular expressions to filter input regex to filter input parameters. If you don't know about regular expressions, you can read more about them. They're very, very important. Then use prepared statement instead of statement. Invoke this function in Java server pages to check for invalid characters. So you can use JSP. You can also, for DDoS, you can do source authentication, fingerprint learning, also domain name redirection. So vulnerability is what we say, a defect or a weakness in the hardware, software, and the protocols. We mentioned this, I think, yesterday. So some of the hazards that come with vulnerabilities is bypass of permissions, escalation of permissions, denial of service attacks, data leakage, as well as execution of unauthorized instructions. These are some of the hazards that come with regards to vulnerability. So in terms of the exploitation method is usually local and remote attack vulnerabilities. So in terms of location, we have the operating system, the network protocol stack, in an server program, in a server program, within hardware, within a communication protocol. And this one is taking a lot because people are not securing in protocols. So that is why I told you, and I'll still repeat, be part of teams such as ITU and IETF and see what they are doing with regards to securing and coming up with new protocols. That is why you wonder, you ever ask yourself why we have HTTP version this? How do you think there are some magical things happening? There are some people working so that they can make sure that the versions are high, and like, for example, is it WPA for Wi-Fi's and web, all that. Then password security and other types are also part of location. Then we also have, in terms of security threat vulnerabilities, based on potential threats to systems and the possibility of being exploited. This is another classification area. It's a very long classification. We have high level vulnerabilities, medium and low level. So that is why we have the CVE. Take time and check on common vulnerabilities and exposure mechanism, how they're able to classify vulnerabilities as either high level, medium, and low, especially if you're working on things such as OSINT, open source intelligence. Then you're looking at causes of system vulnerabilities, defects in the software, bugs in the software compilation, as well as improper system configuration. Don't leave a root without multi-factor authentication. Don't leave the default passwords as they were. Some of those things. Limited security awareness, we talked about this. Always make sure your users, as well as the technical team, the IT team, are aware of the security measures they can put into they can take advantage of. So there's a process of scanning, vulnerability scanning. You do a ping sweep, locate the target host as well as the network. You collect some target information, such as you detect the operating system. For those who have used Kali Linux, you know this process, and even Parrot. What is the one word do you use for this? In the 7 phases of an attack, of a what? It's just called malware what? Attack. Usually some 7 phases. So what do you call this? It usually starts with R. Yes, recon. Yes, Elmas, recon. So we have operating system detection and port scanning. Then also you now scan for now. After you've known the operating system, you can now check for certain vulnerabilities that are specific to that operating system, as well as the open ports that are there for something of that sort. So yes, the cyber kill chain. Thank you, Almas. That is called the 7 phases of the cyber kill chain. So if you have time, just go and check. If you have the link, Elmas, you can share with others so that they can see the 7 phases of the cyber kill chain. So with some of the scanning methods, you can do some port scanning, full, scene, stealth. Stealth is better because it's less noisy. Then you also have some passive scanning in terms of the vulnerability, and also some active scanning. So in scene scanning, you get the details of all those types of scanning in your PDF. You can check that much better. So it's very important to know. It can appear in your exam. So make sure you get to know the scanning and what each scanning method really works. So definition of a patch. Obviously, when your clothes are torn, you go to a tailor and they patch it for you. So same case for vulnerability, you actually go to what? Go to what? If you go to a tailor for clothes, where do you go for a patch? You are forced to it. Yes, Linux also has something like UFW, Lawrence. It's called what? UFW. What is the full? Universal Firewall. You can set up a firewall in Linux. Vulnerabilities, I think we talked about WannaCry. I don't need to repeat that. There's also the drown vulnerability that affected OpenSSL. You can read more about it. So how do you really defend against vulnerabilities? Update persistent patches promptly, especially with Android. If your phone is telling you there's a security update, don't say that I'll do it when bundles, I have the bundles. Get onto a Wi-Fi, update it. Also, when you're talking about also Windows, make sure you do it. Very important. Get to the latest update. Then disable specific ports and services, especially the ones that you don't use. They're usually a loophole for attackers. Then improve some security awareness, very important. Get into a meeting like this one, these people are having, and talk about security awareness. Then scan and kill viruses and Trojan horses in a timely manner using a good antivirus. So I'm having 2 minutes. So how do you implement? That is another question for you, a food for thought. How do you implement the defenses? So you must check on that. Have a schedule. Make sure you check. Make sure Windows updates are automated. Don't say you have to do it manually. There are a number of other ways of implementing that. Now we get to the quiz. Now, which of the following is a server that provides file transfer and access services on the network? This is a very easy one. The answer is A, yes. Everyone, I hope everyone is getting it. Cheriot, Phyllis, Effie, Moshiri, Rose, Steven, Eddie, Dennis, Charlotte, Maureen, Joe. I'll answer you, Nicholas, you'll remind me. Who else? Let's all participate. Keith, Emmanuel Kigen, Diana, Dennis, Morogi, James, Karen, Ngetich, Nicholas, Elmas achana na mbio, Katiko, Jerry. Moko na haraka ya kufunga. Alia, Awoche, Kevin, Siaji. Yes, you're all correct. So let's go to the second question. Which of the following are causes of network vulnerabilities? Defects in the software or protocol. So when I ask which of the following, you have to obviously read first. So you have, and make sure you read, don't read one alafu unasimamia hapo. I will say sometimes a good strategy is to read from bottom going upwards, because most of the time most people read from A going to D. They rarely read from D going to A. So I can see some answers C, D, A, C, D. Najua Elmas aliangalia kwa training material. Alex, Kinya. So when I ask which of the following, I believe the question, the certification exam gives you how many, but don't be too quick to choose two and go away. Sometimes all are answers, right? So check, what are the causes of network vulnerabilities? Network, software in the or protocol. The moment you see protocol, network iko hapo. Bugs in software compilation. So you can see, you have that. I'm seeing bugs in software compilation. Is it part of network vulnerabilities? I'm seeing everyone is saying all. For those who are saying all, ama nimeangalia material, can you tell us how B is a network vulnerability? Then improper system and or network configuration, hapo tumeona network, so you obvious it is. And also limited security awareness, hiyo tumeona ni kweli. So the reason why we are talking about software compilation, that is why, because you're having that. Yeah, so the answer is A, B, C, and D. And I think with that, I'll call it a session, and I will, before I'll stop the recording, I'll just want to check on one module. At least today we finished a number of modules. So I'd like you to go and check on host firewalls and antiviruses, because when I come tomorrow, I'll not focus a lot. I'll go faster on it again. So read it in advance, get to know about the Windows firewall settings, the IP tables, rules, antivirus software, some of the mainstream softwares, antivirus software in Kenya, in China and even in Kenya. What is the knowledge of antivirus? And yeah, just go and look through host firewalls and antivirus. I'll upload more recordings on the software bootcamp drive. from the other instructors that were lesson specific, for those who would like to take time and listen to someone talking to them about these slides, especially a Kenyan. So I think that said, we can call it a class. Let me stop my recording. See you in day 4, where we're going to be having Dr. Joseph J. Bart Miller. So don't miss. Okay, so I think recording is stopped.